A super fund can pass the official test and still be nowhere near the top. That is the uncomfortable bit. In APRA's latest full performance test, all 52 MySuper products passed. Sounds good. But in APRA's product performance data, the gap between one public offer MySuper product and another was still massive. One sat around 6.28% a year over 10 years, another sat around 8.13% a year over 10 years. Same system, very different outcome. So, here are the 5 super fund tiers to check before September, from the danger zone all the way to what good actually looks like. And number 1 is the test that matters more than any fund ranking. Number 5, the funds APRA actually failed. Start with the actual danger zone. In APRA's 2025 performance test, 563 superannuation products were assessed. That included 52 MySuper products. All 52 passed. It also included 374 non-platform trustee-directed products. All of those passed too. But 137 platform trustee-directed products were assessed, and 7 failed. Plain English, these are not usually your simple default MySuper accounts. They are more often choice or platform-style investment options, where members may have selected an option themselves or through an advisor. And APRA named them. The first-time fails included the Bendigo Superannuation Plan, Bendigo Balanced Wholesale Fund, the Bendigo Superannuation Plan, Bendigo High Growth Index Fund, and Wealth Personal Superannuation and Pension Fund, My North Index Moderately Defensive. The consecutive fails included IOOF Portfolio Service Superannuation Fund, MLC Wholesale Horizon 2 Income Portfolio, Wealth Personal Superannuation and Pension Fund, North Guardian Balanced Fund, North Guardian Growth Fund, and North Guardian Moderately Defensive Fund. Now, this does not mean every member should instantly switch. That depends on personal circumstances, advice arrangements, tax, insurance, and why the option was chosen in the first place. But it does mean one thing. If your product failed APRA's performance test, you should not ignore it. APRA says first-time failed products are expected to identify the causes of underperformance and fix them, or develop a plan to move members if that is in members' best interests. And if a product fails for the second year in a row, it must be closed to new members the day after notification. What this means for you. The worst tier is not a fund someone on the internet dislikes. It is a product the regulator has officially flagged. Number 5 was the red zone. Number 4 is more subtle, funds that passed but still sat near the bottom of the public MySuper pack. Number 4, the pass mark isn't the podium. This is where most people get caught. They hear, passed the APRA test, and think, great, I'm sorted. Not quite. A pass mark means the product cleared the regulatory benchmark. It does not mean it was one of the best. Using APRA's 2025 Comprehensive Product Performance Package and looking only at public offer, single strategy MySuper products with 10-year net return data, the lower end of the table sat around 6.3% to 6.7% per year. That is still a pass, but it is not the same as being near the top. And that gap matters, because in super, a small annual gap can become a very large retirement gap. Now, be fair, this is not me saying those funds are scams. It is not me saying every member should switch, and it is not personal financial advice. Different products have different asset allocations, risks, insurance arrangements, fees, and member needs. But this is the key lesson. Passing the test is the floor, not the ceiling. MoneySmart says when comparing funds, you should look at performance over 5 years or longer, compare similar investment options, and remember that past performance is not a guarantee of future performance. What this means for you. Do not stop at my fund passed. Ask, passed compared to what? Number 4 shows why the pass mark is not enough. Number 3 shows the quiet leak that can hurt even when returns look okay. Number 3, the fee leak that looks tiny. Fees are boring. That is why they work. They do not punch you in the face. they just quietly shave your balance. MoneySmart says every super fund charges fees, and for the same level of investment performance, lower fees usually help your balance grow faster. Here is the simple picture. Imagine two funds, both earn 7% per year before fees. One has total fees that reduce the return by 0.5% a year. The other has total fees that reduce the return by 1% a year. On a $100,000 balance, with no extra contributions, over 30 years, that 0.5% fee gap could mean roughly $87,000 less. That is not a forecast, it is an illustration, but it shows why fee percentages are sneaky. 0.5% sounds tiny, but over decades, tiny becomes expensive. MoneySmart gives a similar warning with a case study. Savannah is 30. She earns $50,000 a year. She has $20,000 in super, and she lowers her fees from 2.5% to 1%. MoneySmart projects that by age 65, she could have $336,000 instead of $255,000. That is $81,000 more in super. Again, not a guaranteed result for everyone, but the lesson is real. Fees are not just a line on a statement. They are a drag on compounding, and compounding is the engine of super. What this means for you: a good fund is not just the one with a nice one-year return. It is the one where performance, fees, risk, and insurance make sense together. Number 3 was the leak. Number 2 is the top end of the table, the funds that looked strongest on one official long-term measure. Number 2, the top end of the MySuper table. Now for the part everyone wants. Who was near the top? Again, we need to be precise. This is not the best fund for every Australian. This is one slice of the data. Public offer, single strategy MySuper, 10-year net return, representative member balance of $50,000. In APRA's 2025 product performance data, the top end of that public MySuper group sat around 7.4% to 8.1% per year over 10 years. That is a very different picture from the lower end group at roughly 6.3% to 6.7%. And yes, you can show the top end names on screen if every figure is cited directly from APRA's data. But in the narration, the safer point is the range. Because the lesson is not, copy the top fund. The lesson is, your fund's long-term result can sit in a very different part of the table. Now pause. This is where Finance YouTube can get dangerous. Do not hear top of the table and think, done, I'll just pick that one. That is not how super works. One fund may have more growth assets, another may have different insurance, another may suit certain industries better, another may have a life cycle option that changes as you age, and the future will not copy the past. MoneySmart specifically warns that past performance is not a guarantee of future performance. So why mention the top range at all? Because it shows the size of the gap. If one group sits around the low 6s over 10 years, and another sits around the high 7s or low 8s, that difference is not trivia. On $100,000, if a 6.28% annual return and an 8.13% annual return repeated for 30 years with no extra contributions, and they almost certainly will not repeat exactly, the difference would be more than $400,000. That is not a forecast. That is a warning about small annual gaps. What this means for you: the top table is useful, but it is not a shopping list. It is a reason to check your own fund properly. Number 2 shows the difference between the lower and upper end of one official long-term measure. Number 1 is the actual test your fund needs to pass. Number 1, the 5-point check before September. Here is the truth. There is no single best super fund for every Australian. There is only the best fit for your situation. And before September matters because APRA says annual performance test outcomes are published at the end of August each year. If a product fails, affected members must be notified within 28 days of the fund being advised by APRA. So don't wait for a scary letter. Use the 5-point check. First, performance. MoneySmart says to look at performance over 5 years or longer and compare similar investment options. Balanced with balanced, growth with growth, life cycle with the right life cycle stage, not apples with lawnmowers. Second, fees. Look at admin fees, investment fees, transaction costs, buy-sell spreads, and advice fees. A low-fee dud is still a dud, but a high-fee fund has to justify the drag. Third, insurance. Super often comes with life insurance, total and permanent disability insurance, and sometimes income protection insurance. That can be valuable, but premiums come out of your balance. So check what you are paying for, check what is covered, and check whether exclusions apply. Fourth, risk. If you are 30, your right investment option may look different from someone who is 62. The highest recent return is not always the right risk. The lowest risk option is not always the safest long-term choice either. Cash can feel safe while quietly losing the race to inflation. Fifth, fit. This is the part no ranking can do for you. Do you want a default MySuper product? A life cycle option? Ethical screens? Low admin fees? Stronger insurance? Better online tools? Access to advice? A fund can be excellent and still not suit you. The ATO's Your Super comparison tool compares MySuper products. MoneySmart also says you can use a fund's product disclosure statement, comparison tools, and fund information to compare your options. But the point is not to choose based only on one rating. So here is the whole countdown. Number 5, the official fail list. Number 4, passed but lagging. Number 3, the fee leak. Number 2, the top end of the long-term table. Number 1, your 5-point check. And that closes the loop. The best super fund is not the one with the loudest ad. It is not automatically the one your employer picked. It is not even automatically the one at the top of one ranking table. The best fund is the one that keeps passing the boring tests year after year. Strong long-term performance, reasonable fees, insurance that actually suits you, risk that matches your time horizon, and a structure you understand. Because your super is not just a line on a payslip. It is probably one of the biggest assets you will ever own. So, before September, do one boring thing that could matter for decades. Check whether your fund is helping build your future or quietly taking a bigger bite than it should.